Bilateral or unilateral contracts can be bilateral or unilateral. In a bilateral contract, both parties are legally obligated to do something. For example, John promises to sell his home to Tom if in return Tom promises to pay the purchase price by a specified time. The contract is bilateral in that as soon as these promises have been exchanged, both parties are bound to specific actions. If only one party promises to exchange something, the contract becomes unilateral. For instance, when a buyer offers to pay a commission to an agent who finds the property he eventually purchases, it is only the buyer who has become duty-bound. This is a one-sided agreement, where only one party is legally obligated. Here is another example. The owner of 123 Main Street, Phoenix, Arizona, offers a $5,000 bonus, payable through the buyer's licensed real estate agent's employing broker, to the first licensed Arizona real estate agent who produces a ready, willing, and able buyer who enters into a purchase contract for the property at $400,000 on terms acceptable to the seller. This offer is unilateral and shall become binding only upon performance. The $5,000 bonus will be paid at the close of escrow through escrow to the buyer's agent's broker and must be disclosed in the purchase contract and closing documents. Why this version works: unilateral, one promise, binding only if performed. Legal in AZ specifies payment flows through the agent's broker, not directly to the agent. Timing clarified, payable at close of escrow, so seller isn't on the hook if the deal never closes. Disclosure built in requires the bonus to appear in the purchase contract, closing docs, protecting against hidden inducement claims. Express or implied. An express contract is based on promises that have been made with words that are either spoken or written. If a seller asks an agent to help her sell her property and the agent says yes, I will, an express contract was formed because of the words they used. If, however, the seller and the agent never exchange words, written or oral, but the agent begins showing potential buyers the seller's property, an implied contract has been formed. In some instances, contracts can be both express and implied. For instance, suppose Brandy takes her car to a tire store to have a flat tire fixed. When she approached the greeting counter, a service representative asks if he can help her. When she asks him if he can fix her flat tire, he responds by saying, yes, and the express portion of the contract to have Brandy's tire fixed has been established. When the service representative returns with the fixed tire, Brandy pays him, although she and the representative did not discuss her need to pay beforehand. This second occurrence in the contract was implied. Both her and the service representative anticipated that she would pay to have the tire fixed, but neither she or the service representative actually exchanged words to establish this outcome. Note: depending on the services being contracted, when possible, it is generally recommended that contracts be expressed. Using the example above, suppose the tire store service agent returned with the fixed tire, asking Brandy to pay $500 for its repair. Had Brandy known this repair cost prior to having it fixed, she would likely have gone to a different garage to have the service performed. Executory or executed executory contracts are contracts that are still in process. That is, they have not been completed by one or both of the parties yet. This is how all contracts begin. Not surprisingly, then, an executed contract is a contract that has been completed. Both parties have fulfilled their promises to the fullest of their contracted responsibilities. In practice, suppose that because of Trek's great reputation as a contractor, he is asked to do the tile work on Phil's new swimming pool by Phil's wife as a surprise for Phil's upcoming birthday. Trek agrees to do the work, and he agrees to have it done by Phil's birthday. 1 week before Phil's birthday, Trek completes the job and asked Phil's wife for payment for his work. She agrees to pay for the materials used to do the job, but refuses to pay for Trek's time, arguing that she never said that she would pay him for his time, but assumed he would do the work as a favor. Given this unanticipated outcome, consider the questions listed on the following 3 screens. Question 1. What term best describes the basis of the contract between Phil's wife and Trek? Is it unilateral, bilateral, legal intent, or capacity? Because Trek agreed to provide a service, or a finished product, and Phil's wife promised nothing, the contract was unilateral in Phil's wife's view. A court may find that the contract was bilateral. Regardless, frustration, time, and disappointment could have been avoided. Payment for Trek's efforts been identified and established in writing. Question 2. Was the contract between Phil's wife and Trek express or implied? Because words were used to establish the relationship, it was an express contract. Despite the fact that Trek thought Phil's wife would pay him for his time, he was mistaken in Phil's wife's understanding. It may take a court to determine if Trek should be paid for his efforts. Question 3. After the pool was completed, what did the contract between Phil's wife and Trek become? Was it executory, executed, voidable, or unenforceable? Because Trek completed the tile work on the pool in the agreed time set forth by the agreement, the contract became executed. A court could rule, however, that because Trek was not paid for his work, the contract was not completed, and it is, therefore, executory. Promissory estoppel. This was discussed in Section 1 under Characteristics of Legally Enforceable Contracts. When employed in the contract development process, they help ensure accountability and enforceability, but also help to ensure effective communication between offerers, offerees, and all others with interest in fulfillment of contracts. Just as importantly, these factors ensure that fairness between parties is met. You also learned that one of these characteristics is a consideration, exchanged value between parties. Usually in cases of contracts, the law stipulates that the parties must receive consideration. Because law wants to promote fairness, courts will sometimes apply the doctrine of promissory estoppel, which makes enforceability despite the absence of consideration. This is done through a ruling titled promissory estoppel, when reasonable reliance and detriment can be proven. The promissory estoppel doctrine is limited to cases where it is necessary to prevent an injustice, lack of fairness, if the contract is not fulfilled. Consider the following scenario. Craig was raised by his uncle, Eugene. When Craig was in his latter teens, Eugene's wife died, and he eventually remarried a woman with children. Craig was unwilling to accept his uncle's new stepchildren as a family. Craig turned against his uncle and moved out. Several years later, Eugene fell into financial trouble and was unable to make the monthly payments on his house and farm. Hearing of his uncle's dilemma, Craig told his uncle to sign the farm over to him, and in exchange, he would allow his uncle to keep the house and farm while Eugene, his wife, and stepchildren continued to live on the property. In return, Eugene was to make small monthly payments directly to Craig until the difference in the debt was met. At that point, Craig would sign the house and farm back over to Eugene. Lacking an understanding of the basics of good contract development and documentation, Eugene willingly gave his house and farm to his nephew on a handshake. Despite Eugene's faithfully made payments, months later, Craig ordered his uncle, wife, and his adopted children off of the property. Craig then auctioned the property and kept all the money from the sale. Under fundamental contract law, Craig's agreement with his uncle was unenforceable because Eugene was not able to show a written document which stipulated the original terms of the contract, nor did the deal require Eugene to provide consideration. In an effort to establish fairness, courts can rule promissory estoppel, which requires the fulfillment of the original contract despite lacking consideration. It is used when it would otherwise be unfair for the agreement to be terminated. There are 4 primary concerns that must be shown to a court before promissory estoppel may be ruled. 1. The first party makes a promise to the second. 2. The first party should expect that the second party would take action. 3. The second party has taken action. 4. The second party will be injured if the first party does not honor the promise. Make sure your clients know what they are signing. Make sure that all understand the terms and conditions and that there are no questions left unanswered. Be clear and have their terms be spelled out. When one party is not performing per contract agreement, make sure that they are cured with a cure period notice.